a leader who's not properly dressed. I said, what about your country? So he said, in our country, if a leader is not properly dressed, with a tie and coat and shining shoes, then we will not follow him. If Mahatma Gandhi came to America and tried to lead us, we probably put him in jail for indecent exposure. That is how our cultural habits are. And that made me think, how is it that we all followed a person who is as simply dressed, as minimally dressed as Mahatma Gandhi? We look at our spiritual leaders also, they are very simply dressed. Look at the spiritual leaders of other religions in, say, Italy or Vatican. You will see what pomp and glory they are dressed in. So therefore, somewhere our society was structured on the concept of sacrifice. And therefore this sacrifice meant giving up, and that was extolled. I don't find any other society which has that. And in fact, today, increasingly you find a large number of adherents to sadhus and Swamijis. You take Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram, how many foreigners flocked there? Or Sai Baba's, when he was there, or any of the other sadhus. In America, you find whichever sadhu has gone from here is able to establish a huge following. Baba Ramdev, for instance, has got a huge following abroad. Even I, whose name is Swami, I am a bogus Swami, not a real one. When people don't know my background, they think that I am a Swamiji, so they phone me up while I am in America to ask me whether I can teach them how to get mental peace. Recently there was a very famous actress in Hollywood called Julia Roberts, and she came to Haryana to do some shooting, and then some of her people in the company took her to meet a sannyasi in an ashram, and then the sannyasi asked her, "What is wrong with you?" So she said, "I have made billions of dollars, but I am not happy and I am not able to understand why." And that led to 2 weeks in that ashram where she learned so many things, including pranayam and yoga, and how to be non-attached, how money was not everything, and how our society was structured on the principle that money was not the decider of social status. For example, the old Hindu society was built on this Varna system, which is now degenerated because it's got linked with birth. But originally you found that those who were most venerated were the scholars, and they didn't have any weapons or wealth or land. And the people who had weapons had to take advice from them and act according to their advice, which was not the same thing in Europe, where people with weapons became kings and they would decide everything. So this society was structured on the basis that money will not decide your social status. Unfortunately, that's what we have lost or losing. And consequently, we have not lost it because there's no other explanation for Anna Hazare's popularity in our country except that old value, that person of sacrifice should be venerated. Otherwise, today Anna Hazare does not have. So, if somebody says, why is it that after economic reform we are still increasing corruption? It is because of this factor, that it is now becoming more and more materialistic society. Our ancient values were that there should be a balance between spiritual values and material progress. And that is now becoming instead of a two-dimensional approach or a blend of two values, now we are becoming more and more materialistic, and I find this amongst all. I went recently to IIM Bangalore to teach students, give a lecture to students, and I asked the class, after all this stiff competitive exam you are coming here, what for? What is it that attracts you to this MBA course? And 99% of the class, there was only one exception in a class of almost 100, 99% said, because once we get an MBA, we'll get a good job. And probably we'll also get a good bride. That is what the boys said. Now, I said, you mean theory of marketing or theory of finance and these things do not appeal to you so much? No, that is all right, but only if you get MBA. Are we assured of a job? Now that shows the new attitude that everything is being measured on how much you can earn and how well off you are and how quickly you will get the law. And this is the foundation of corruption I want to tell you, which is propelling our country today increasingly, and this is what we have to stem if we want a long-run solution. Now, 2G is a very, it's really a phenomenon because its ramifications are enormous. What is 2G? Many people ask me. Somebody asked Manmohan Singh and he said, Sonia Ji and Rahul Ji. That's all he needs to know. He doesn't need to know anything else. But basically, 2G means G stands for generation. So it's a second generation. Of what? The first generation was when the cordless phone came. You could make a call, and without a wire, the person you called would pick up the phone, you'd hear the ring, and you'd pick up the phone, you could have a telephone conversation. Then came 2G with mobile phones, where you would be able not only to make a telephone call, but send SMS, email, even pictures. Now, what is the difference between these two? Well, in the 1G, the waves, the sound waves that go, they go in cycles, but long cycles. 2G, there's more information going, so the cycles are more. 3G, you make a phone call, the other side picks it up, you can see that person, you can see a video of that person on your telephone. And therefore the cycles are even more. 4G, there will be even more information to send, large documents that can be sent. So, G is generation. In generation in Hindi it will be called PD. Pehla PD, dusra PD, tisra PD, like that. And this is what distinguishes, and these have to go through the sky, and you have to make sure that you don't collide with other waves. So therefore you have to partition the sky, and that partitioning, if I may simplify it, is spectrum, and that is not unlimited, so it has to be sold as a scarce resource. But what happened in the 2G matter is that it was not sold at the highest price. It was in fact arbitrarily decided to sell it at 2001 price. 2001 price was at a time when we had only 4 million mobile sets. In 2008 we had 700 million mobile sets. So the market had become huge. There were a flood of applications. And Mr. Raja, who was the telecom minister, used all his methods to ensure that his favorites at least got the license. In the end, 9 got it, and 2 of them were his favorites. And these were favorites, the Swan Telecom and the Unitech. Both are real estate companies. They had nothing in telecom whatsoever. Not a single tower, no equipment, nothing, no background. They are pure real estate companies. And by all his fiddling around with this so-called first come first serve policy, he ensured that they were able to get the 2 licenses. And 7 others got it. Tata got it, Vodafone got it, so many others got it. But of all these got 9 at 2001 price. Had we auctioned in 2008, we would have probably got 10 times the price. Now there is a lot of controversy on that because the CAG says had we auctioned it, we would have got 1,76,000 crores more. Now this has been rubbished by a lot of Congress politicians. Kapil Sibal said that no, the loss is zero. And people criticize him. So why blame him? He can't count beyond zero. So that is the level of education. And you see now, he may have been a lawyer, but he has forgotten everything in this fit of psychophancy. He has forgotten everything. Now the Supreme Court has said, in a landmark judgment cancelling all licenses, that a huge loss, perhaps in the range of the CAG estimate, has been incurred, and this is unbearable, and therefore must not only cancel it, but we must auction it. And if you auctioned it and you got anywhere near 1,76,000 crores, actually what we got was only 14,000 crores as revenue, because 1,650 crores you multiply by 9 companies, you get about 15,000 crores. And this 15,000 crores is clearly an underestimate because at least the Swan and Unitech sold it afterwards. Sold the company, the controlling interest of the company, to 2 foreign companies, Etisalat and Telenor, at 8 times the price. So therefore, if you just take that particular part, that eight times if they could sell, then India, the government of India could have also sold it at 8 times. 8 into 15 is automatically will give you 140 crores, right? No, they're 120 crores. And then you add the CDA, MA and all that, you'll come very close to 1,76,000. And if you put it at 10 times, you'll get even more. Because Tata sold to Docomo at 13 times the price. And Estel sold to a Russian company at 20 times the price. So, because these companies had already telecom equipment and so on, whereas Swan and Unitech had nothing with them. So therefore 8 times is about the maximum that could be given. And so government definitely lost revenue. And this was because of the price fixed at that low level. And subsequently, Raja also changed the rules of the telecom by saying that even before rolling out your services, you can sell the controlling interests by share dilution to foreign companies in the name of FDI. Now, for a long time, people thought this is all Raja's work alone. And I, one day, was listening to television, and I found that the Prime Minister was speaking in Rajya Sabha on 24th to 2011, excuse me. And he was saying that somebody was attacking him for fixing such a low price. He said, what could I do? Under a NDA government cabinet resolution, 2 ministers were authorized to decide on behalf of the cabinet. One is the finance minister and the other is the telecom minister. And these 2 were completely empowered to decide the price and only report to me. And therefore, Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Raja together decided the price and came and informed me on 4th July 2008. That is the first time I realized there was another player in that. And that was Mr. Chidambaram. But he, being a lawyer, and crooked lawyers are the most dangerous people in this world, who know how to get around and create alibis for themselves. His name had not figured anywhere. So then I started hunting for documents. And I found that these documents were not easily available. Most of the time when I filed RTI applications, they said, it's not traceable. Fortunately, I found out that at least some of the documents were in the CBI file, which the CBI had confiscated, but the CBI wouldn't give it to me, so I went to court and got an order and got the CBI file. Today, you will read in the newspapers that Mr. Chidambaram, the court has freed him from being made a co-accused. This is a wrong judgment. And when I read the judgment, I was surprised what had happened. because the first 60 paragraphs of the judgment are all in my favor, and then last 3 paragraphs are all in favor of Chidambaram. So something fishy has happened. But I found in the judgment, the judge acknowledges, yes, Swami has proved that the price was decided, and the share dilution was also decided by Chidambaram and Mr. Raja. And while Mr. Raja has charges have been framed on him for these 2 things, the judge concludes that just because Mr. Chidambaram decided with Mr. Raja doesn't mean that he is also participated in the criminality unless proved otherwise. That means I and somebody else participated in a murder. I give the murderer a knife and say kill him, and then later on you say all he did was pass the knife and that's all. There is no criminal liability. I think first of all the judge got it wrong, and I'm surprised he got it wrong. He's a very good judge. It must be for God knows what reason. I'm at least not going to speculate in public on what the reason is, even if I know privately what the reason is. The issue is this, that the whole idea of summoning Mr. Chidambaram was to ask him on the witness box or as an accused or through his lawyers, why did you agree to the price of 2001? The whole establishment of a criminality will come in the trial. In the summoning stage, I have to only show that there exists a doubt. And that Supreme Court judgments have said a number of places that you don't have to prove the case that a person is guilty to have him summoned. You have to show that he could be guilty. And that is sufficient. And unfortunately, the judge has not done that, and he has acted on a wrong basis. So I am, it's all right, it happens all the